this. And also share my screen. And then we will officially get started. Could you please confirm if you're able to see my screen? Just give me a thumbs up if you can see my screen. Great. So I'm gonna put my slide more. Okay, great. So once again, thank you very much for making time to join this session. My name is Patrick Mwesije, and I am one of the co-founders, also the Chief Executive Officer at Hope for Refugees International. Hope for Refugees is a relatively young organization, and our overall goal and mandate is to facilitate a supportive environment for refugees, immigrants, and newcomers as they navigate their way around different places where they find safety. So we expect to have programs that are going to be running not only in Canada, but also in other places where there is refugees, refugees and asylum seekers. But for now, since we are based here in Toronto and in Canada, we are starting small, but in future we will be able to expand because our goal is to also be able to share hope and opportunity internationally beyond the borders of Canada. So I'll go straight into this particular session, which is gathering evidence and preparing for your refugee hearing session. And this, so about this, specifically about this session, for refugees, we recognize the crucial importance of refugee hearing processes for individuals who are seeking asylum in Canada. And we hope that this session will provide valuable insights and guidance and support you as refugees, asylum claimants, as you navigate the critical process of your refugee hearings. I did write in the communication that went out that Canada annually receives a significant number of refugees seeking asylum. In 2022 alone, Canada had about 140,000 plus refugees who were granted asylum. And I'm also happy to note that I was actually among those. I've only been here for just 2 years, so I've not been here for long, but I've really taken time to invest so much in reading and understanding these processes as a newcomer, such that I'm able to help and support other newcomers. Because I know that there's very many people outside there who tend to exploit newcomers and not giving them the right information. But I felt like with Hope for Refugees, we could be different and be an institution that provides resources, support, and information for newcomers. So the 140,000 plus refugees who were granted asylum last year are reflecting an 8% increase from the previous years. So every year, the numbers of asylum seekers keep increasing. And the refugee hearing with the Immigration and Refugee Board of Canada is a very important moment for every asylum seeker. Actually, I usually like telling people that your hearing is extremely, very, very important because it is at this point the decision is made on your future in this country. And when you go for your hearing, it's important to go in knowing that you need a positive decision. You need to do everything in your favor to have a positive decision. You shouldn't take any chances. You can have all the fun, you can make all the money, but it's important that you remember that when that point comes, you must do everything in your favor to make sure that the member grants you asylum. Because if they don't, that would be a potential beginning of a very long other journey that could put you at risk of deportation. It's true that some people have gotten negative hearings and somehow, somewhere, appeal them long, to be able to finally get asylum. So in terms of the session objectives, we're going to go into learning about the essential documents that you require as part of your evidence for a refugee hearing. We're also going to make sure that you gain some knowledge on effective strategies to prepare for your refugee hearing in advance, as well as want to make sure that you acquire insights and tips to build the confidence that is necessary to make a compelling case before the Immigration and Refugee Board. And towards the end, I will also talk about how you can get a support letter or a recommendation letter from Hope for Refugees. Thank you. Once again, I would like to request that you please mute your microphones because I'm getting a lot of feedback. So for more exactly, because I'm not able to see the participants since I'm seeing my screen. So I will request that you cross-check your microphone one more time and make sure that you're on mute because we're getting some feedback. Great. So claiming refugee protection in Canada, what do you need to know? You need to know that claiming refugee protection can be a very stressful experience, and it will also require you to think about difficult and traumatic experiences in your life. Like many of you know, it's possible that many of us, when we come here as refugees and asylum seekers, we are faced with depression, anxiety. Sometimes we migrate, we come here in person, physically, but our psychologically, we are not here, you know. And it takes us time to kind of like fit in, because everything is different. The food is different. You're going to start living in a shelter. You've potentially never stayed in a shelter in your entire life. Maybe wherever you were back home in Africa or in Asia, you were staying in a mansion or in an extremely high-end place, and now you're here. You're told you're going to be sleeping in a shelter, sharing a room with one or two or four people. Unlikely you're going to be staying in a dormitory, or you're actually going to sleep on the streets. You have to adjust to the weather, you have to adjust to the language, the food, like everything is totally different. And when you're coming here, nobody tells you this. So clearly, you're coming here to seek asylum. You must know and you must be ready to experience some difficult and traumatic experiences in your life. And you also must be ready to explain the past experience that have led you to seek protection in Canada. This is a very necessary part of making a successful refugee claim. You're going to be asked questions during your hearing. Some people are lucky they don't go for hearing, but they ask them to present evidence. So still, either way, you must present evidence that is credible. And again, I'll say, please do not take chances because this is a very important process for you. If you want to know how difficult it is in this country, please find someone or interest yourself in a story of a person who has been denied asylum. That is how bad and difficult it gets. So you don't have to take chances. You need to know these processes. You need to know about the refugee claim process in Canada. You need to know about writing a complete and correct narrative about your life experience and why you left your country. I know some of you here have already submitted your narratives, but it is also possible that you can add something to your narrative. If you feel like you've remembered something that you didn't include, you are allowed. You work with your lawyer and you integrate whatever you've remembered, and then it can be added to your narrative, even when you've already submitted. You need to know the evidence that you need to collect that may be that you will use to support your case. This is extremely very important. Some people are exploited when it comes to evidence because they simply do not know what kind of evidence they need and they do not know how to prepare this evidence. So they are exploited. Some are made to pay a lot of money, some start looking for documents that they actually may not necessarily even require, simply because they have not taken time to study and understand the kind of evidence one needs. You know, you can have as much evidence as possible, but you also do not need so much. You can have relatively enough, I would say relatively enough things that you think are very important for your case. You also need to understand the common misunderstandings about claiming refugee protection based on your claim, because there's a lot of misunderstandings. For example, someone will tell you, oh, you need to you need to go to back in your country and make sure your letters are, you get an attorney who has to stamp on your letters, you sign affidavits. And then I'm like, how do, if my case is about LGBTQ and there's a law in Uganda that doesn't even allow a lawyer, rather that there's already a law in Uganda that bans homosexuality, right? So how is a lawyer even going to start signing my documents? Like, so if someone is struggling because they want to get, the seals from lawyers back home and all that kind of stuff, and they're paying so much money which they don't even have, right? And you're like, it's not a must that you need to have affidavits. Like, it's not written anywhere, even though you go on the IRCC website, it's not written anywhere that you need to get an affidavit, right? But if you have it, well and good. So, anyways, let's proceed. How do I move this thing? It's covering my screen. Okay. So basis under which you can claim asylum in Canada, you can be given refugee protection in Canada if you meet the definition of two things. One, if you are a conventional refugee, or if you're a person in need of protection. And I'll explain what these two things mean in my next slide. But just before that, you need to know that the Refugee Protection Division of Canada, RPD, and I'll keep using the term RPD, which means Refugee Protection Division, and this is a division under the Immigration and Refugee Board of Canada, is the one which is responsible for deciding if you qualify for your refugee protection. For example, if you file an asylum from the airport, or if you declare at the airport, the border agency is not responsible for making a decision, but they are responsible for accepting your claim, and then they forward it. The body that is responsible for making a decision on your claim is the Refugee Protection Division. And before this happens, you must make a claim. Before you become a protected person, you must make a claim. And if you're eligible, you'll be referred to the Refugee Protection Division. So it's important to know that for example, I find very many people who say, can I claim at the airport? Can I claim at the border? Won't they take me back? No, they can't. You have a right to claim at the border, right? It is your right to claim at the border, and they will actually give you support, like I will explain somewhere. So who is a conventional refugee? Conventional refugees are people who have a well-founded fear of persecution because of their race, their religion, their nationality, their political opinion, or membership in a particular social group. For example, it could be people who are SOGIs, like sexual orientation and gender identity and expression. They could be a certain minority group. They could be a certain religious group, Membership in a particular group can include sexual orientation, gender identity, sometimes even being a woman, right? For example, you might be a woman, and in the area where you come from, there is things like gender-based violence. There's things like female genital mutilation, and you're afraid of your life. In some places, you're living with HIV and you face discrimination, you face stigma. Those are areas under which you can, like seek asylum. It could be politics. It could belong to a certain political group and you're facing persecution, right? And who is a person in need of protection? A person in need of protection must show that if they return to their home country of nationality, they will face a danger of torture, a risk of their life, or a risk of cruel and unusual treatment or punishment. So you have to fall under these two. This is the basis that the Canadian government uses to determine if you qualify for asylum or not in this country. You must belong here in one of the two. You must. And if you don't belong here and you need asylum, you have to find a way of convincing the member that you belong to any of these two. Right? So where can I make a claim in Canada? You can make a claim at any port of entry. It could be the airport, a seaport, a land border. You can make a claim for refugee protection when you arrive in Canada at any port of entry by completing an eligibility interview with an officer from the Canada Border Service Agency. For most of you who have we've all gone through any of the airports coming into Canada. Well, some people could have come through the land border through the US, or maybe used like water borders. But either way, you will, at any particular border, you will find the Canada Border Service Agency. So if you're intending to seek asylum, you have a right to seek asylum from the border. And what happens is that you have to complete an eligibility interview with an officer. And they will take your fingerprints and also provide you with an application package. Normally, you will complete the forms which are provided by CBSA, and also it is also possible that an officer will tell you to come back to either to the airport or to whatever port of entry or to an Indian office. For example, they will tell you you can make your claim, but now they will invite you for an eligibility interview in Kipling, right? But the fact and truth of the matter is that you have claimed from the border. So, is that a question? Could we kindly pose the questions or put them in the chat? I'll answer them later. Thanks. And if this occurs, the officer will give, if you claim for protection at the airport, the officer will give you an information pamphlet, which contains all the information that you need, and also an acknowledgement of claim letter, which will help you to access the interim federal health program. That is the health insurance. So this is literally a brown paper. When you have your brown paper, you can use it to, like you are under the interim federal health program. That's why with the brown paper, you can actually do anything with your health. Like you can get all the different forms of health services as compared to having this OHIP card, the Interior Health Benefit Program. And also you can use your brown paper for several other things. The officer may also tell you to submit your refugee claim online. So if you are told to complete your claim online, you will need the application number on your acknowledgement of claim letter and the interview location given to you by the officer. After your claim has been submitted, if the officer decides that your claim is eligible, it is referred to the PRDP, the Refugee Protection Division, for a decision. Again, like I said, it is the Refugee Protection Division that makes a decision on your claim. So for example, if they invite you to Kipling for your eligibility interview, it is basically for them to evaluate if your case is eligible for asylum. So just they have to make sure that issues around credibility, have been met. You came in through the right channels. You've not overstayed here for long. You're not a terrorist. You're not involved in cases of money fraud and all that. And you also qualify either as a conventional refugee or a person who needs protection. And then your file will be sent to RPD, and usually you get an email. Yeah. So once your claim has been referred to the Refugee Protection Division, you will be given a refugee protection claimant document. That's a brown paper. This is if you have made your claim online. Also a confirmation of referral letter, which confirms that your claim has been referred to IRB. I think most of you have received these letters that I'm talking about, but if you've not, then you will definitely receive these ones. You will also be given a basis of claim form to fill, and this has to be submitted within 15 days. But you can also make a claim after you've arrived in Canada. And depending on your visa, you have up to 6 months. So I need to turn this off. You have up to 6 months to make a claim. Because in most cases, if you're on a visitor visa, depending on the type of visa that you have, but if it's a visitor visa, you can only stay in here for 6 months. If you overstay, then it will be an overstay. It will be a different case. But you can stay as long as it is less than 6 months, then you are eligible to make a claim. If it's past 6 months, you're not eligible to make a claim. The thing is that you might want to first move out and then come in again. But if you stay for more than 6 months, still when you're moving out, they're going to question you, why were you here? In most countries, actually, they refer to it as an overstay. So anyway, you can make a claim when you're within Canada, and this is what many people do. So you can also make a claim for refugee protection after arriving in Canada. If you choose to make a claim after arriving in Canada, you must submit a complete application, including all supporting documents, as well as your basis of claim form. To make your claim after arriving in Canada, you must submit your refugee claim online. So, I mean, like most of you know, you get a lawyer, you go through legal aid, you find a lawyer, they help you to open up your portal, and you fill in all those forms, including the basis of claim and so many questions, and then you submit. So to submit your claim online, you will need to create your own online account. This is what we usually call a portal. This can either be done for you, you can either do it yourself, or you can do it with support of a lawyer. And by the way, it is possible for you to submit a refugee claim without a lawyer. People think that you must have a lawyer. It's not a must to have a lawyer. I want to make that clear. But it's good to have a lawyer, right? But whatever the lawyer that can do, you can do it yourself as well. For example, you can write on narrative. You can fill in the basis of claim. If you know, that is if you know what to do, right? Yeah, and then you just submit everything on your own. But it is highly advised that you get a lawyer. After all, if you get a lawyer through legal aid, it is free, so you can utilize that free service. So why is it important to keep your contact information up to date? When you submit a claim, it is very, very important to keep your contact information up to date, right? If you have a claim for refugee protection, please, if you've not yet gotten a hearing, why is someone requesting to record this meeting? I'm already recording, so I'm going to deny you. Someone called Joshua Wanjala is requesting to record this meeting. No, because I'm already recording. So if you have a claim, if you have a pending claim, if you've submitted a refugee claim, protection claim, make sure that your contacts are up, that your email, your address, your phone number must be up to date. If you change, most people sometimes, for example, will submit a claim when they're in the shelter. Then eventually you're going to get your own housing immediately when you officially change an address. Talk to your lawyer to update the address, because they keep sending letters and they might get misplaced. Sorry. So, gathering and submitting evidence. Now, I want to make this clear. It is not the lawyer's responsibility to gather your evidence, because the lawyer doesn't know your story. It is your responsibility to prepare for your hearing by gathering and submitting all relevant evidence to help support your claim. The lawyer will only facilitate the process. These are two things. There is facilitating and there is gathering. It is you to look for those letters. No lawyer is going to write you a letter. Actually, what happens is that the lawyer is going to tell you after you've submitted, just a week or a few days after you've submitted, or maybe a month or a couple of months, the lawyer will write you an email and say you need to start looking for the following evidence. I just want to make this clear that some people have this misunderstanding to think that the lawyer is going to help you gather your evidence. The lawyer will not help you to gather your evidence. It is your responsibility to start looking for your evidence, right? And there's also something called the Country of Origin Information, the COI. This is something that the IRCC does. In every country, there is like human rights reports that are done. There's like studies and research that is done. and they generate evidence on an annual basis on like kind of like documenting the different human rights violations in every country. So when they collect all that, sometimes it's done through like UN agencies and on human rights and other human rights bodies like Human Rights Watch, Oxfam, and 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 several others. So they document the human rights violation. So IRCC uses all that information to compile something they call the country of origin information. You can go online and search for country of origin information, and then you can go in and select your country and read about, for example, what are some of the things the government of Canada has highlighted in my country as human rights violations. Now, this really helps you when you're putting your evidence together. I must say that you need to really invest in reading and being acquainted with some of these things to help you as you put your evidence and as you gather your evidence. So, so as you gather your evidence, there are three things that the member or the IRB will look at as they make your case. One, your evidence has to be, they look at identity. You must meet identity. In other words, you need to show documents that show that, you need to provide documents which show that you're the one, you're not impersonating somebody. And how, I mean, like, which kind of documents can prove that you are the one? Which kind of documents can prove that I'm Patrick Moise King? So you must show evidence of who you are by submitting high quality, like photocopies of your official original documents. Now, you need official original documents, but photocopies, right? You will, especially if you if you've done an online submission. But I mean, some people just do actually like a handwritten submission, but in most cases, online is better, and that's what most refugees do. So, some of these documents include, a copy of your passport, your national identity card, your birth certificate, marriage certificate, school transcript certificate, your driver's license. If you've been in the military or whatever, if you've worked for government or for any institution, if you have anything that shows that you are the one, and in this case, it must have, like your names, your full names are stated on your passport, sometimes your date of birth, sometimes your signature. These are the documents that you can use to prove your identity. Identity. We are still on identity. We've not yet gone on credibility. It is not necessary to provide the Refugee Protection Division with your original documents. You don't need to submit your original documents, but you need to submit photocopies of your original documents. However, you must bring these original documents with you at your hearing. When some of us were here, like last year, most of the hearings were virtual. So, I mean, we didn't have to carry documents. But I've recently read something where they say that hearings are going to be in person. So when you're going for your hearing in person, you have to carry something, either a folder or a bag that has all your original documents, because the member might just request to say, hey, let me look at your documents. But when you're submitting them as part of your evidence, they are photocopies, because after all, you are making an online submission, unless you're submitting hard copies. So other relevant evidence that proves credibility. So you should, or you must submit other available documents that you feel are relevant to your claim and that can help you show that your claim should be accepted. Depending on the nature of your refugee claim, this evidence may help to show that your case is credible, that you have a genuine fear of persecution in your country, that the risk you face in your country is personal and not generalized, that the government in your country is unable to protect you, and that you could not reasonably or safely live in another region of your country. And I'll tell you what these documents are, documents that can prove your credibility. And again, this is case by case. It depends on your case. It depends on your story. So for example, you can show proof of membership in a political organization. Say, for example, if your case is on politics, political persecution, you need to show membership, you need to show affiliation, you need to show active participation. So this could be like your ID of your political organization. This could be like any role that you've done for that political organization. Like, for example, if you were involved in their politics, in their elections, they could be like pictures. They could be like, it could be a letter from maybe the Secretary General of that party or anybody. It may not necessarily be the Secretary General, but anybody who is in that political organization can write to you. They don't even need to be a high level officer, but somebody that you've worked with, somebody that can story. It is also very important to note that evidence should align with your story. Evidence must align with your story. Actually, that is why the lawyer writes you a list of the things that you're supposed to provide. They just based on your story. And in most cases, everything you write in your story, you need to prove it. So it could be a letter. I was telling people recently that I can get a letter, like me when I came here, I got a letter from my sister, right? I got a letter from my sister, and I even wrote the letter myself. I said, read through and sign it for me and send it back to me, right? You can get from a family member, you know, if you, I mean, if you suffered any injuries and you did mention that you went to a hospital, you were admitted at a certain point, it would be nice to at least present like any medical or psychological reports or receipts or reports, you know. You might also not have, because under normal circumstances, for example, if there's war in your country or if you're running away for asylum, you're running away. You might have nothing, but you should be able to prove and say, I don't have anything, right? But you have to explain why don't you have anything. So it could be police reports or documents if you have, if you're able to get them. It's not a must that you need to submit police reports. It could be photos, right? Um, it could even be um, media reports in your country. Like me, I remember when I came here, my case was an LGBT. My case was an LGBTQ case, and I said, look, in my country, ABC and this is happening, and I pulled out all um, um, like media reports. I went online, right, and searched for different media reports, things that have been documented about Uganda's LGBTQ situation, because I'm from Uganda, right? And I said, look, this issue has been written about like for the last so many years, that people who affiliate to the LGBTQ people in Uganda are persecuted. I pulled out documents of colleagues, including even those I didn't know, right? But it was written in the public, in newspapers, in where, right? Like I got links. I also made sure that I used to, like back when I was back in Uganda, I was an activist. I was doing like advocacy and activism work on human rights and women's rights and stuff like that. So I also pulled out all kind of like evidence, like things that were written about my work in the media, right? I also used to write blogs. I used to, you know, like all that. So I went online, got all that, got the links, and included them in my evidence. So you can also do that. Some of you are activists in your countries, you're in radio stations, what you can get pictures, you can get all that. As long as it is related to your story, just get that. You can get a letter from your mother. For example, at least somebody in your family, if it's a political case, for example, if it's an LGBT case, it's a different story, because some people run away because their family are persecuting them themselves. So they don't even want anybody in their families to know. But if it's a political case, at least somebody in your family should know that, oh, my brother or my sister or my cousin or whoever is being persecuted. They can write you a letter to prove and say, yes, I know so and so and so. We grew up together. They are my sibling or my friend. We went to the same school. They are my son, child, my daughter, my parents, and they are going through ABCD, just like that letter. And they sign it, they attach their their ID. And even the ID has to be signed, right?
Driving.
Somebody called Daniel Ayapi. Could you please mute your microphone? So like it is those things, it is those simple things. Before you think about affidavits, please, before you think about affidavits, before you think about letters from different organizations, start with those simple things. If it's an LGBTQ case, you can even get a letter from from a bar attendant of where you used to drink from and say, you know what, I used to chill at this bar. This is where I used to go with my friends to drink. And the manager can write a letter and say, I know so and so and so. They used to come and drink from here with their friends. And they will sign that letter, right? They will attach their ID, and that is like thorough evidence. And you could have one, two pictures when you're at that joint just drinking with your friends, and you say, on this date, this picture shows me and my friends ABCD. We were at this joint, we we're just having a good time. And you've mentioned the name of the joint in your picture captions. And guess what? At the same name on those pictures is matching with a letter which has the same name. So it is those simple things sometimes that we underestimate, which make very relevant and credible evidence that is required. So very important. If you moved and traveled from your country, and say, for example, if I was in Uganda and I had to first quickly run away to Kenya to hide, even though I was going for my personal business, I could say I'd gone to hide. And at that particular point, I could get those stamps that I used either crossing through Entebbe or maybe Busia or something like that, right? It could be those bus tickets. It could be, you know, it could be photographs. It could be anything that you think is credible, right? Use that, but make sure it is credible. Make sure it is credible. Like, do not. One mistake that people make also is that like they over exaggerate, because you need to know that these guys are smart. These guys are good. The member who's going to respond to your case, they are an expert, right? They have dealt with so many people. And you know what? They are paid to do what they're doing. And they take time, they read through everything. So you need to make sure simple things, dates, do they match? Names, are they accurate? Time, those simple things. The signature, somebody can just look at the signature and see a variation in one signature. I am the executive director of Hope for Refugees International. I have signed for 3, 4, 5, 10 people, 15, 20, 30, and you have forged a letter from Hope for Refugees with a totally different signature. And someone's going to be like, well, hold on a minute. We usually receive letters from 519 or from Black Cap, but this looks different. It could even be the font. It could be the color palettes and color variations. Simple things can, like question the credibility of the kind of evidence you're supporting. So you really need to be very careful. And again, do not leave any chance for the member to question your documents. Take time. Take time. If you get a date of hearing, just relax, calm down. You will make the money later. But first try to put those documents together. And by the way, sometimes you don't even need to wait. For example, why would you wait to get a membership card of your political organization until the lawyer has asked you to, and until you've received a date of your hearing? And then you start, say, oh, I need to call so and so, I need to call. Yet you had all the time to get a letter from your political affiliation. If it's a letter of your partner, if it's an LGBTQ case and you say I had a partner in Nairobi, I had a partner in Kakuma, wherever, like get the letter as soon as you submit your claim. Like don't wait. And also the truth and now I'm going to speak like an African because I'm an African. The truth of the matter is that these letters, at some point, you will have to write them yourself. You will have to sit down and get a pen and first write them in the simple language that you understand, because you know your story more than anybody. And if your story was written by somebody, then you need to know that story, right? And then like craft those letters yourself if you can, and then send them to people who you think can support you. They can edit them for you. Because what if I want my mother to write me a letter and my mother can't write? She's illiterate, that she can't even write English. So who's going to write that letter? I have to draft it for her and send it to her, right? So like you really have to invest in time. You need to look for credible evidence. Then you can get letters from Canadians also want to make sure that when you come here, you're not just held in the shelter, but because remember you're saying that wherever I was, I could not move out, I could not express myself. Now I've come into a safe haven. So at least despite of the fact that I'm depressed, I'm having a lot of anxiety, I'm stressed out. I also need to somehow I need to confide in people. I need to confide in community. I need to confide in a it could be a church, it could be a community organization, it could be a food bank, it could be a community center. Like go out, volunteer. Actually, like I've seen people, for example, saying, "Oh, I'm going to attend this event because I need a certificate." You don't need like. So what is the certificate? You don't need a certificate because you've attended a certain event and you present it. I don't know. This still beats my understanding on how certificates, because a certificate is a one-day thing. But if I volunteer, they're going to write. If I volunteer somewhere and they're writing me a support letter, they're going to say he volunteered for this number of hours. And while they were volunteering with us, they participated in A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and they gained the following skills. Now, that is more stronger than a certificate. I keep telling people, you don't need to attend an event because you need a certificate, but at least say, I'm going to attend your event, but I want to volunteer somewhere. I want to help on registration. I want to help with promoting the event. And then let them write you a letter that says, okay, during that event, you volunteered and supported A, B, C, D, F, G. That is a better letter than a certificate, right? So I'm trying to like help you really understand these things because in most cases, in some organizations, like taking advantage, right? Because they want you to get there later. That's the reality. I know very many people don't want to talk about it, but I'll talk about it because I don't give a like I don't care. So like, but you also need to be smart, you know. And there's very many organizations here. Like for example, you have 519, you have MCC, you have Rainbow Connect, you have the refugees, you have there's even so many other people. Just what I'll do, I'm going to start sharing with you on email different organizations that you can volunteer with. And all you need to do is just go online, write an email and say, my name is so and so. I'm a refugee. I arrived here over the last 6 months. I'm living in a shelter, but I've just seen the kind of work that you're doing, and I would like to volunteer. What is the process? In most cases, these guys have a proper process of how you can come on board and volunteer. You don't even need somebody to connect. I've had very many newcomers who are saying, so and so connected me to go and volunteer here. Fine, if they've connected you well and good. But how happens if I don't have a connection? I can get my smartphone, I can get my iPhone and my computer. I go online and search which are the organizations in Toronto that are doing work in waste management, in climate change, in manufacturing cars, in blah, blah, blah. And Google will give me a list. And I'll get my phone and call. I'm like, hey, my name is Patrick King. I'm a refugee from Uganda. I live in Toronto. I arrived here, blah, blah, blah. I'm currently living in a shelter. I am looking for an institution where I can offer some time as a volunteer. And I've seen the kind of work you guys are doing. It's amazing work that aligns with my goals and my objectives and my passion. And I would like to come in and offer my time. And guess what? They're going to be like, wow. Because remember, these guys also want to have black people on board. They want to have women on board. Diversity, equity, these are key things that the Canadian government keeps encouraging their organizations to prioritize. So, and then such an institution is going to write you a letter. So volunteer, show your active involvement because the member will ask you, right? How have you been actively involved? How have you been actively involved? Community engagement and all that. It doesn't only have to be Dominion Church because everybody provides a letter from Dominion Church and your other church that I don't know. Bit different. Okay, you can have a letter from Dominion Church, of course, amazing. I'm not saying you shouldn't, but also have something different. Like make your case unique. You really need to be unique. You can't just be like everybody. I'm getting from everyone gets from the same. So I really wanted to emphasize this point because I feel like it's very, very important. But let me proceed in the interest of time. So I will not dwell on this slide, but I talked about the national documentation package. This type of evidence includes reports from well-respected sources that document country conditions that may relate to your claims, such as political, social, cultural, economic, and human rights conditions. The presiding member at your hearing will use this information when making a decision on your claim. So it is important that you go online and check the national documentation package and select your country and read about some of the human rights violations. And actually, what happens is that when you receive your hearing date, the email they write to you, if you've been very keen and you read that information, the IRB will mention the national documentation package and they'll even give you a link. So you can just go in and read through. Like, for example, for Uganda, they talk about, like a current human rights, political human rights violation. They mentioned Bobby Wine everywhere, right? They mentioned the anti-homosexuality law. They mentioned, like several things. So same for several other countries. I've written letters for colleagues from Malawi, from Kenya, and you know what I usually do? I go online, I check because I want to know what is the human rights situation in Kenya. Last year, this year, over the last 3 years, what was mentioned about LGBTQ in Zambia. When I'm writing someone a letter, I have to reference. If there are people on this call who have received letters from me, they will tell you, right? Like I want to take my time and write a letter that references this stuff because the member will know exactly what I am talking about. So when you're writing those letters as well, and you're going to send them to people who are going to sign them for you, you can reference that, like reference this law in Malawi, right? That the parliament passed, or a process that was initiated by a certain member or a church leader that mentioned certain statements, quote them, and the day they mentioned them, and which maybe media agency published that and put a link. And so, for example, in reference to the right bishop of blah, 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 Mombasa, on this day, he did mention this statement, which provoked more hate against people who identify as LGBTQ, because that is going to make your case different. The Human Rights Watch, Amnesty International, in their report dated that was published in this month, under the title ABC, they quote, 5 people in Uganda are facing ABCD because of the hate, that this the stigma, like quote those simple things. And then the member is going to be like, oh, wow, this is very credible evidence, right? Yeah. Then also, you may bring witnesses to your hearing if you think this will help you, rather if you think this will help your claim. Like you are allowed to have a witness, and a witness can be your partner, right? They could be your parent, your father, your mother, your sister, your sibling, your friend. Anybody can be your witness as long as you mention them in your story. A witness is a person who knows about your claim and can provide information that will help the member make a decision. So your witness really must know what your story is, word by word. And I think I didn't have a witness. I didn't need any witness in my claim because I was like, man, I don't want to bring on people and then they give me trouble. But if you can, for example, if you want to your partner to be your witness, and they don't need to be in Canada. They can still be in Nigeria, in Abuja, or in Lagos or wherever, in Accra. They can go through video conferencing, right? But they really must know your story. And you know what happens with witnesses? They ask them questions and they must answer those questions. But witnesses join the hearing after you have testified. So, for example, they will first ask you your questions. Then, when they're done with you, they bring in the witness. So, the witness is not listening to what you're saying. After your testimony and after answering all questions, now they will bring in the witness. They will allow the witness into the meeting. That's what happened. So in other words, whatever your witness is saying must align with your story. So you can have a witness. It's very okay. But the written witness must be ready to answer questions about the information they provide at your hearing. Also, if you would like to have a witness, sorry. Yeah, if you'd like to have a witness, you must submit information about your witness, and this has to be done at least 10 days before the date of your hearing. And the information about your witness should include things like contact information, their address, telephone number, the fax number if they have, a short statement on the purpose of their testimony and what it will be about. So you say so and so was my partner, my sexual partner, you need to make it very clear. And your lawyer can help you. How long their testimony will take? Will it take 10 minutes, 15? Your relationship with the witness has to be very clear. Was it your friend, your partner? Were you competing for the same position in your political party? Was it somebody who saved you from sexual violence and mutilation and blah, blah, blah? Like, it has to be clear. And whether you want them to testify in person or by video or by telephone, still they will have to testify, and you can also note if they need an interpreter, and also tell which language, So for example, if it's not English or French, you have to, you have to be clear with the language. And so, because in this case, the IRB will have to get an interpreter so they understand what you're saying. And if the witness is an expert, you must also give information about qualification and include reports that summarize the. So can I provide documents after I've submitted my claim? There's somebody whose mic is not muted and it's bringing a lot of feedback. If you could one more time cross-check your mics and make sure they are muted. So if I've submitted documents, my evidence, my basis of claim, can I still submit more documents? So yes, if you've submitted your basis of claim, right? And you remember that, oh, there's something I didn't include in my narrative, and you remember it, you can still work with your lawyer, write it, and your lawyer will submit it. If it is evidence, if you've already submitted your evidence and you forget, like, oh, there's another letter I've gotten, yes, you can still submit it as long as you still, it's at least 10 days before your hearing. If it's 10 days to your hearing, no. So meaning that if you prepare your hearing in time, rather if you prepare your evidence in time and you submit it like maybe 10 days before the 10 days to your hearing, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, by the Hope Refugees writes you a letter. If you still have 10 days before, you can give it to your lawyer, and then your lawyer is able to submit it. I hope that makes sense. So steps to submit documents and evidence. Step one, if your documents are in English or French, if your documents are not in English or French, you must provide translated documents. So documents are only accepted in English and French, and your lawyer will guide you on how that is done. Step two, you have to print, scan, photocopy all the documents, right? Well, in this case, majority of the people on this call, I think, you do online submissions. So it's just a matter of scanning your documents and submitting them to your lawyer, and then your lawyer will, arrange them and have them submitted. But of course, there's people who do like paper applications, who submit documents in person. So this is why these steps are very, very important. So I will not dwell on these steps a lot, but because most of you submit online. So it's just a matter of making sure that you have all your evidence together, you scan it, you arrange it, right? And you send to your lawyer. So I just wanted to note, maybe I could, just a minute. So preparing for your refugee hearing. So the Refugee Protection Division will send you a notice to appear by email and also by mail. You will receive a letter at your door, but also you will receive there's going to be a change on your portal, and it will prompt an email. So you receive an email, and after a couple of days, you receive a mail when your claim is ready to be heard. On the notice to appear, in most cases, there are two dates. The first date is the date of your hearing, but there's one date. The second date the second date on your notice to appear is for special hearing. In the event that you do not attend your hearing, you must appear at your special hearing to explain why you are not able to attend your hearing. At the special hearing, the member will determine whether your claim should be declared abandoned. So, but this is really like a case-by-case thing. In most notices to appear, it is usually one date, and they tell you should not miss this date. So you have to do everything. If, for example, anything happens and you're sick, you're not able to make it, you talk to your lawyer and they change the date when it is still early, other than the member coming and the lawyer preparing, and then you know where to be seen. Hearings usually take half a day and take place in private in order to protect you and your family. There is usually a short break about like halfway through the hearing. I know some people are like, no, my hearing took 30 minutes, mine took an hour, mine took 3 hours. Yes, some hearings actually take even more than one day, but this is an average. So when you say like half an hour, rather half a day, so imagine you're beginning like at 2, sorry, maybe you're beginning at 8 and maybe you're going to end at midday or 1 or, something like that. So this is really like an average. But I know people whose hearings have been postponed twice, like they have not completed, right? So you need to be ready for anything. And also stay calm during your hearing. It is very normal that you get nervous. I remember during my hearing, I'd done everything, but somehow I was a bit nervous. And I was like, oh my God, what is going to happen? What if they don't give me a positive decision? What will happen? But somehow I was confident. I was like, but I am confident. And my lawyer told me, yes, I like your evidence. I even did mock hearings. I'm going to show you resources where you can go and do mock hearings. Please, I would like to encourage you, do mock hearings. Go to Matthew House, go to, I think 519 also has mock hearings. Your lawyer will also help you to do a mock hearing. Mock hearings really, really prepare you for your hearing. They ask you questions. Remember, they'll ask you to submit your basis of claim, your evidence, you submit them to them as well. So like they are really facing you and preparing you, right? So for people who have families, young children under the age of 12 who are accompanied by an adult making a refugee claim, not necessarily appear for a hearing unless the member requires that they attend. In some situations, those children who are older than 12, like who are 18, 17, 16, sometimes the member might say, I want him to be present. So always speak to your lawyer to find out if, the children have to be part of the hearing. And if a member cannot be in the same, if a member is not in the same city with you, say for example, if you're living in Ottawa and the member is going to work in your cases in Barrie, in most cases it's going to be a video conferencing or an online hearing. So who will be at my hearing? Who is going to be in the room? So in most cases, it is the member from IRB, right? The member, and this is the impartial decision maker who will be making a decision on your claim. So that one will be there, right? They will be asking you questions. They will hear from you. They will read for you all the laws and blah, 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 blah. And they'll ask you to, to affirm and all that. In some hearings, they call the minister's lawyers or the minister's counsel, right? A representative from a Canada Border Service Agency or a representative from IRCC will sometimes be present, sometimes to oppose and say, no, so and so should not be given asylum. But they are not the ones who make the final decision, like I said. CBSA can be there, the minister can be there, but at the end of the day, it is IRB that makes a decision. So for example, your case might be a complex case for some reasons, I don't know, and it attracts the attention of the minister, and they want to be in the hearing. Usually, most of them are there to be like, we are not convinced. So you really have to work with your lawyer, and your lawyer will prepare you as well, in case of this. Then your lawyer is also a third person that is usually in this hearing. And your lawyer, I want to note this, that your lawyer doesn't do so much during your hearing. Your lawyer is not going to answer any question. They will just be there to witness like this. The chances are high that they're not going to say anything. Actually, so to say, the lawyer might ask you some questions. They might provoke a few questions that they know maybe these ones will help you get back into line. So if you think that your lawyer is going to protect you during your hearing by answering questions, no, it is you to answer the questions, but your lawyer has to be there. And then interpreters. If you've requested for an interpreter, well and good, you can have an interpreter. There's nothing wrong with it, but it's also okay not to have an interpreter. I didn't have an interpreter during my hearing because I was like, I can express myself in English and I can listen to literally any accent, right? So I didn't need an interpreter. And then there's going to be you. And then there's going to be an observer if you request. Oh, yeah, there's always an observer that comes from IRCC. They don't say anything, There could also be a witness. Yeah, but under normal circumstances, it's the member, it's your lawyer, it's the interpreter, right? And it's the observer if you ask for them. So these are the people that are usually in your hearing. For the minister's representative, it's not common, but it happens. But you can always ask your lawyer for more questions in that regard. What happens at your hearing? When your hearing begins, the member will introduce everyone and explain the hearing process to you. You will then make a solemn affirmation, which is a promise to tell nothing but the truth. They will read for you all their laws and about the hearing. They will quote laws and everything. And you have to affirm. You have to solemnly affirm. Then there's one of the other thing that happens is the exhibits are numbered. The member will go through all the documents that have been submitted into evidence and will assign an exhibit number to each. The member may also look at the original documents that you bring to your hearing. Remember, like I said earlier, it is very, very important that you carry your original documents. And for majority of you have not yet received your hearings, there's a high likelihood that your hearings are going to be in person, right? So make sure not to forget your original documents. So the lawyer will read, all the different exhibits that you've submitted. This is literally like your evidence. Every letter, a letter from your mother, a letter from your partner, a letter from this, maybe this, like they quote everything using numbers and they'll read it for you. And you will, and this is a very, very important step that happens during a hearing. You will testify. You will be asked questions by the member and by the counsel, sometimes the minister's counsel or your own lawyer. If you do not have a lawyer, the member may ask you all the questions, Now, it is very important at this stage that you be calm. Don't be nervous, right? Just be positive. Don't be nervous. Like have a conversation. Me, when I went in, I just told myself, I want to have a conversation with my lawyer. Like I in my heart, I was like, I don't want it to be an interview because this guy doesn't know my story. I know my story better. And he wasn't there when I was going through whatever I was going through, right? So I was like, I know my story better than he does. So I can tell my story better. And I went in to tell my story as per my narrative, right? So that kind of like gave me confidence. And also like I knew my documents, all my evidence. Like I made sure my evidence aligns somehow. It had to align. I knew that somehow I knew that whatever kind of questions they ask, like a few seconds into the question, I should have an idea on what they want. So like also, being able to quickly tell what they're trying to ask. And for some of you who are going to go for in-person hearings, maybe one simple trick I'll give you also is that when you're being asked questions and when you're answering these questions, just face the member straight into their eyes. Like, don't look on the sides, and they'll tell you're lying. If you wanna, like, just face them straight in their eyes. Be confident. Don't be overconfident. Emotions are welcome. You can be emotional. People cry, because you're literally telling a very sad story of whatever you've gone through. And usually it is just normal that when you're telling a sad story, it provokes emotions. So cry, it's okay. Cry if you can. Rather, if the emotions come, it's fine. It's actually going to help you calm down. It's very okay. Just tell the member, you know what, just give me a minute. Just like to calm down, to take a glass of water. If you feel the questions are too many and you need a breather, like be confident, because at the end of the day, you understand your story better. It's not the member. And after all, you will have put in enough to make sure that you are going to have a successful hearing. So almost done. What happens at your hearing? Continuation. The witness will testify. If you bring your witness, they will testify after you have testified. I think I told you that. Any witness you bring to your hearing will be asked to stay in the waiting room and will not join the hearing until after you have testified. So you need to make sure that whatever you say is going to match with what the witness is going to say. If you're not sure, then you would rather not have a witness. Like me, I was like, you know what? I don't need a witness because I don't want to say this. And then the witness says another thing. And then it raises questions. Comment representations will be made about your case. After you and any witnesses have testified, the member will ask you and your counsel to explain why you think your claim should be accepted. And this is the point why you really need to convince the member. If the minister's counsel or the minister's lawyer is participating, the member will give them an opportunity to comment on your case. Right? The member will make a decision. That's also another important step within the hearing process. The member may decide your claim and tell you orally the decision at the end of your hearing. And this is what usually happens. They will tell you your claim is accepted. Or they will tell you your claim is not accepted. What happens after your claim is not accepted? I'm not going to go into that today. We will have another call for that. But your intention, please, you can make the money. It's important. We came here to make money. We came here to do so many things, to settle in. Daniel Ayepi, could you kindly mute your microphone? I'm about to finish and we're going to questions. So we came here to make money. We came here to integrate and be productive members of a Canadian society. We came in, but importantly, you must know that your hearing is like the beginning to a long journey of how you're going to enjoy this country. So please pay attention, give it time, prepare your evidence. You can always reach out to us for refugees. You can reach out to me, you can reach out to Papa very soon. We're going to other members of the team. Have a conversation, right? You can have a conversation. It's not a do or die to get letters from everywhere. Just have minimal. You can have 100 pages of evidence. You can have 20 pages. Another person can have 10 pages, but my friend, those 10 pages are like on point. So for me, the most important, I'll not tell you have 30 pages or 100 pages or what. I would say just have relatively enough and quality evidence. Read your story where you mention a name of anybody, you need to prove. That is, you need evidence, either a letter or pictures or whatever, I don't know. Wherever you mention a name, in most cases, your lawyer will tell you we need a letter or something from this person. If it's a particular situation, you can link it to a media story or what, or, if you're able to get evidence, well and good. If you don't, you can also go to your story when you do not have any evidence. And they'll ask you, where is you're like, no, I ran away. Whoa. If like right now there's like war in Toronto, everyone will be running away for their life and you will not even remember. So Emily, you can mute your microphone. So like you can also go, but you should be able to defend and give an explanation why you do not have evidence, right? So allowed. I mean, speak to your lawyer. It's important that you refer to your lawyer. So so these are some of the key resources. There is this very important toolkit, especially for people whose cases are on LGBTQ. I'll send you this. Uh, I'll send you these resources. This capital from Capital Rainbow, the Queer Refugee Hearing Program Toolkit, very relevant toolkit with a lot of great information for anybody whose case is on LGBTQ. I would encourage you to read it. Matthew House, Toronto, they have a recourse simulated hearing program. I think all you need to do is you have to submit whatever documents they're asking for, like 2 weeks before, and they'll get you a date and do a hearing. I did my simulated, my mock hearing with Matthew House, and to be honest, it prepared me. It really, really prepared me. And some of their volunteers, those old women and men, like they're really like seniors. Some of them have been like judges before and members of the IRP. So I would really, really encourage you. The 519 Immigration and Refugee Legal Clinic for the LGBTQ individuals is also a good one. The 519 mock hearing program, they have a mock hearing program. And you know what? Even though your case is on politics, you can still go to Matthew House. You can still reach out to 519 as well. Like I honestly feel like your case doesn't necessarily need to be an LGBT case for you to reach out to 519 because they're a community organization that welcomes everybody, right? Then Rainbow Connect, it's a friendly space for LGBT. Lucy Minor, please mute your mic. Lucy, could you kindly mute your microphone?
Lucy. Ameitoa.
Yeah, Lucy Minor, kindly mute your microphone. Thanks. Yeah. Then yeah, I was talking about the Rainbow Connect program. It's a friendly space for newcomers where a lot of relevant information is shared. I used to be an active member of this program, and I can be honest that it was a fruitful time for me. I learned a lot. I got a lot of connections. They wrote me an extremely very nice letter. There's a guy called Ranjit who used to be there. I don't know if he's still there, but very, very amazing people. MCC, amazing. MCC is an extremely relevant institution. You know, if you get a letter from them, that would be great. But also, don't just only get letters. It would also be nice to volunteer with these guys. Like, for example, I remember I used to be active in 519, and I had two letters. I had a letter as a volunteer, and then this normal other advocacy letter that they give. And there's several other agencies that you can reach out to participate. And it doesn't necessarily need to be LGBTQ, you know, like institutions alone. If for example, if your case is a political case, right? Like participate in Toronto elections. Like I remember I used to do work for Toronto, City of Toronto elections. Like I was actually on 2 occasions, like we participated, even when they were voting Mayor Olivia Cho, and sometimes they were voting I think councillors. I was like one of the polling agents, you know, like doing different things and all that. They even pay. I remember they paid us like $280 every day that we did that work. So like show some interest, right? You can interest yourself, for example, in the Labour Party. There's like so many parties in this country that you can interest yourself in, or like different activities, different political related. At least like find out the office of your area councillor and be part of their advisory council. Like really, I mean, like showcase that your case is credible. Like, because if you say when I was back home, I was a political activist, and now you get here, and I mean, like it's your choice. You can say, when I got here, I lost all interest in politics. I mean, it's allowed. Nobody's gonna ask you why, but also showing that, you know, ever since I came, maybe there's this MPP of our area that I have engaged with in one way or another. like give them a call, be like, oh, my name is John, I'm a political activist from Nigeria. I came in just a couple of days ago, months ago, and I just felt it was important to reach out to my political representative. I would also like to volunteer with your office if there's anything that I can do, shape opinion, blah, blah, blah. If there's any surveys I can participate in, even those emails alone, those emails, to be honest, that is evidence. Take screenshots and say, oh, by the way, I reached out to this political leader, blah, 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 and take screenshots. And that is going to be your evidence. Like you would see there's some form of interest. So I think I have like 2 more slides to go. So requesting for a support letter from Hope for Refugees. We've just recently started giving out support letters, but we want to be very organized. And that is why we are putting in place a process to provide these letters. And if anybody doesn't follow this process, we're not going to give them a letter because we know that there's very many people who are going to be reaching out to us. So number one, if you're an asylum seeker, a client of Hope for Refugees, requiring a support letter for your refugee hearing, we are here to assist you. And you have to fill in the support letter request form. There's a that I will share this link to your emails, and you will have to fill in that form at 3 weeks before the deadline for submitting your evidence. Because we're all volunteers who are doing this work. None of us is paid to do this work at the moment, right? So writing these letters takes time, and the team is busy, so we need at least 3 weeks to prepare this. And so all requests for support letters must be submitted at least 3 weeks before the deadline. And also, it's important to note that all information provided should be accurate and complete. You need to attach any relevant documents if they are asked. Also, submission of this form does not guarantee the issuance of the support letter. It's not a must that you're going to get a support letter from us, if you've submitted the form, because in case it's missing some information, we can't guarantee. Or if we're not sure, you've never participated in any of our activities and you're coming from somewhere, you want a letter, we will not give you the letter. You at least need to show that you're participating in our activities. You are, we are very soon going to be sending out a call for volunteers. You can volunteer in whatever way you can and support the process. Be active on our WhatsApp groups by sharing relevant information as related, sharing only fun stuff, Yeah, and we will be providing those letters because we are here to support each other, right? And also, we encourage you to do an intake with us. I'm going to be sharing with you a link that you can click on, and then it will take you to a form which you can fill in to do an intake with us. And then we'll get your information and our team will give you a call. And these intakes help us because we get to know the kind of support that you need, because we want to be able to support you through meeting your very unique needs or provide you services and information that is tailored to your needs. That is why we encourage that you do the same thing. Yeah, so I think that's all that I had for you. And I think we're going to open it up for, I don't know what the time is, but let me see. 6:26. Maybe we can open it up for questions for like 30 minutes and then we can close at 7. Yeah, so I think I will request that those who have questions just raise up their hands and then I'll be selecting one by one so that we can be like super organized. Thank you very much. So let me see whose hand is up. So we have a hand from Afezi Jide Balogani. Balogani, could you unmute yourself and ask your question? You can also put some of the questions in the chat room. I'm going to answer any of them. Balogani, could you? Okay. Balogani is not ready. There's someone whose hand was up, some lady. I don't know. Yes, Esther Olopade, could you ask your question? Unmute yourself. Daniel Ajay, could you kindly mute your microphone, please, Daniel?
Okay. Thank you very much for the section. Thank you so much. It's so enlightening and educative. Number one, I want to ask if we can get the recorded section of this because some of us were not able to join early because I was seeing 100 participants, so I can't join, so I joined later. And again, there are so many things that have been dished out. So according to what you've said, that if we reach out to you, we can have a group where we can continue dialogue, questions, and guidance. So I hope you can give us your contacts or share the link to the group as you've promised, because we can't comprehend everything at once, but gradually as it's unfolding, and we keep preparing ourselves towards the journey. So I think the guidance will be needed. So we appreciate if you share the link to the group.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, thank you very much, Esther, for appreciating the presentation. Yes, we will share. I will share this. I'll share the video recording with everyone as soon as it's ready. Just that people can at any time watch it during their free time. I'm also going to provide our emails, and you can, write to us. Also, if you are not on any of our WhatsApp groups, I don't know how best we can do that, but I can share a number that you can send an email, you send a text to, and then it could be added. But going forward, we're going to be also sharing a lot of information on email now that we have your emails, because when you are registering, you actually provided us with your emails. So we intend to use those emails effectively such that we can be able to communicate a lot of relevant information and share, like tools, resources, and other important information. Yeah, but I'll share the links also that I was talking about earlier in the chat right now for the intake. And also when you do an intake with us, we'll schedule a call with you, and then we can discuss very specific needs that you need, and then we can begin the conversation from there. Yeah, thanks. Hope that answers your question. Could we have Rosemary Namayengo? You can unmute yourself. Rosemary, you might want to unmute yourself, because I can't hear you. Okay. Rosemary, looks like Rosemary, and I'm not able to hear Rosemary. She's on mute. Balogani, I see your hand is up. Do you have a question? Hi, I'm not able to hear you though, so I don't know what the problem is.
Hey.
Well, I see you, but I can't hear you, Barogani. Maybe you might want to sort it out there. Rosemary,
okay, yeah.
Okay.
Anyways, just to appreciate you. Thanks for your presentation. It was really helpful. And then I just have a question. So just in case in my narrative I mentioned somewhere that I was arrested, and in actual sense I don't have the evidence for that. But then my lawyer suggested I should provide something, like let's say to prove the police bond that I was given. Is there any way you could enlighten me on where I can find such, like how do I go along with that anyway? Thank you.
Yeah, well, it's tricky, but you are arrested, but maybe the time you are arrested, there was nobody to take a picture, and also I mean, it really depends on the context under which you are arrested and whatever you mentioned in your story. But I mean, you can say also it depends on your case as well, because by the time they arrested you,
It's an LGBTQ case, of course.
okay, well then if that's the case, you don't even need to prove that you are arrested because they know that in Uganda they arrest people, right?
Okay.
LGBTQ. So all you need to say is that you were arrested. So when you are arrested and just keep consistent and saying you were arrested, and when you are arrested, ABCD happened, right?
Okay.
Yeah, because when maybe circumstances under which you are released maybe could be documented. If they are not, it's okay, because even the police do not want to deal with people who identify as LGBTQ. They look at them as rubbish, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, just it's a matter of like, defending your case, having like a really very satisfying reason to defend your case. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank
But
you.
you can also have a further conversation with your lawyer about it and like see how to figure it out. But for me, if it was me, I would say, yeah, I mean, I was arrested and they bumped into me and arrested me, and then in the middle of the night, because I had no case, they just, or somebody bribed them and they got me out, and like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. And just a quick one again, just in addition to that, how about if I used something fake? Is there a way they could trace that?
Yes, they can. They can literally trace anything fake. Very, very. I mean, like, the Canadian government works with professionals. That's one thing you need to know. So you really have to be careful and make sure that evidence is credible. Like, do not expose yourself, and yeah, like real, just be very careful. Just make sure that whatever sort of evidence you're providing is credible, Yeah.
All right.
But
Got it. Thank you.
yeah. But you can, when you do our intake, we can have further conversations, but try to make sure that your evidence is credible.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Barogani, are you now ready, or should I go to Joshua and Jala?
I'm ready now.
Okay, so let's have Barogani, and then after we have Joash Wanjala, and then after we will have Peter Kamau. Yeah, go ahead, Barogani.
Okay. First of all, I want to appreciate your effort on this program. May God continue to bless you. My question is now, because what we have been hearing, I think people are saying the hearing is by Zooming, or is it compulsory? Someone must show as in person. So I want to know.
Can you repeat your question once again? Is it
I said my question is, the other people we are hearing now, they are doing it, they are hearing by Zooming. So I want to know, have the law have they changed doing it by hearing, or they are still going to call us as in person?
Okay, I think I got your question.
Okay.
I remember seeing, I think it was like a tweet from IRCC or something. Well, I'm not so sure, but I remember seeing a tweet saying that hearings were going to be physical. But again, I would largely advise that you have a conversation with your lawyer, like ask your lawyer about it, just to be sure whether your hearing will be in person or it will be online. But as far as I know, IRCC does both online and in-person hearings. Previously, they were doing a lot of online hearings because of COVID. Like, majority of us who came in, like, say, 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022, we had most of our hearings through online because of COVID. But now that, I mean, like, there's no more COVID, I think that's why they are like trying to go back to in-person hearings. But you can ask your lawyer. Yeah, make sure to ask.
Thank you.
Thank you. You can put your hand down. Josh Wanjala.
Thank you for the presentation. It was quite educative. My question was, you have talked about someone, if you have to be send a letter maybe from back home. So my question is this letter has to be handwritten or a soft copy? Because I've also captured a part you said if you have to, you're documented, or some of us who have submitted our documents through soft copy. So if this letter has to be sent to me, whether, for example, if someone has written for me, is it has to be in handwriting? And if it's up to be handwriting, is it, am I supposed to scan it, or am I supposed now to go and type it? So please, can you try to elaborate so that maybe we get it clearly, and how we need, to present these kinds of letter that we are going to submit them.
Okay. So for me, my thinking is that, by the way, you know what? If I was a member and I saw a handwritten letter, I would even give it a lot of attention, because the thing is, if I'm running away for political persecution from my home and I had a family, say I have a 5-year-old, I have a 10-year-old, I have a wife, son, daughter, and several others, and my daughter, who is 7 years, has to write a letter for me to say, Dad, we miss you. Ever since you left, ABCD happened at home. We, like, for them, and just because that could be considered as evidence, and my daughter or my son can just get a pen or a paper and a pencil and write me a letter and just put down your daughter, blah, 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 right? And all they need to do is to scan it or take a picture, because either way, your evidence is submitted through online. So you literally have to scan everything when you're sending it to your lawyer.
So what happened in a scenario whereby, like, for example, like I am on side of the LGBTQ, what if my partner, or for example, a friend of mine, have just write for me a letter? So does it has to be a written form, or it has to be in other way form of that's not typed?
Well, I would largely recommend typing, but if somebody is not able to type, they can write using pen and paper. For me, the most important thing is the information clear? Can the message be delivered? But also, is it like what are those key elements in a letter? Who is it addressed to? The subject, the date, who has written it, is it signed? And then importantly, they attach their ID and they sign on the ID as well and date. So sign on the ID and date the ID, right? And then sign on the letter and date the letter. So I think, they would send you they can take, rather they can take pictures, scans, and blah, blah, send you the soft copies. But I think also what you're trying to ask is, do you need the hard copies? Yes, you also need the hard copies. All the letters, they have to be emailed from your home, and they have to be mailed, whether it is through DHL or whatever. At some point, it is very important to get a pass of all those letters, right? Or somebody can carry them for you, but whatever evidence you generate from back home, have soft copies of that evidence, but also do everything you can to have the hard copies as well. Because in the slides that I was showing you, they ask for some of the hard copies.
And now, if they have to write the letter, does it mean they're writing the letter to me, or they're writing the letter now to the lady?
No, the letter can be to whoever it can sign. It can be to the IRB, the Immigration and Refugee Protection Division of Canada. It can be to IRCC. Like, as long as,
okay,
yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Sign, but the message has to be very, very clear, and the action, because in your letter there must be an action. So what do you want the action to be? Like, for example, I really request and hope that so and so and so is granted asylum to guarantee their safety, right? That is a call to action. In marketing we call it CTA. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Now I've understood. Thank you very much.
Welcome. Yeah, Peter Kamau, could we go to you, and then after we'll go to Lillian Muchiri.
Yes, first of all is to appreciate the presentation. It is really helpful. My question goes where you are seeking an asylum as a family. Will I go for hearing the same day with my wife, or will go fast, or how does it go?
If you're seeking asylum with what? Come again?
As a family with my wife and
Oh,
kids,
right, okay.
will
Uh,
the hearing be done the same day?
yeah, usually if you're if I think if a claim was put on one file,
Yeah, it was
then
done like
yeah, then they will, I think the date is usually one for all of you. But like if you were keen in my slides, for children who are below 12 years, it's not a must that they need to appear before. So unless the member really asks and emphasizes. Emily Serem, could you kindly mute your microphone? Unless the member really insists that they need the kids, but
yes.
usually for like kids who are below 12 years, no. But with your wife, yes, you will have to have your family. But once again, please contact your lawyer and bring some of those specific questions directly to your lawyer, and they will be able to provide more technical guidance. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay, so Lillian, before you come in, there's a couple of questions in the chat. Let's see if we can answer some of them. Is it a must one to have a witness even if you mention them in your story? If one has separated from a partner for over 1 year and not in communication, do they ask for evidence of this past relationship? So let me say this. Whatever you mention in your story, it's very, very important to have some form of evidence around it because they're going to ask you. The member will base all their questions from what you've put in your story. For example, you have a partner, however much you separated from each other. So let's say under normal circumstances, if you're dating, if you're a man and you're dating a fellow man who is a boyfriend or girlfriend, if you're a woman, you're dating a fellow woman who is a girlfriend or boyfriend, if you're a man and you're dating a woman under a normal relationship, whether you separated for 3-4 years, but that time when you're together, there should have been something. It could be a text message, it could be a picture, it could be like maybe you know something about their family, like something really under a normal relationship. There must be something simple that you can use to prove that such and such things happened. Of course, your partner may disappear. In most cases, people's partner disappear. And for example, like, I don't know where my partner went. It is very possible. This world takes us to different places. Yes, you can also kindly say that, you know what, my partner disappeared. I don't know where they are. As simple as that. And you defend it. So that's also allowed. Um, for witnesses, you can have witnesses or you cannot have witnesses. It's up to you. If you want to have witnesses, you need to know that they will be asked questions that must align with your story. So if you're going to have a witness at your hearing, they will have to read through your story. They really have to understand your story. They need to read through all your evidence that you're getting, right? So that they know your story very well. That we also need to practice with them in case of any questions, so that whatever you're answering aligns. And there's another question. Can a lawyer help you understand an interview question? Can a lawyer help you understand an interview question in case you don't during your hearing? Yes. If they ask you a question that you don't understand, you can say, please pardon me, right? I beg your pardon. Could you please come again? What are you trying to mean by this question, right? They can break it down for you. Your lawyer can break it down for you, but your lawyer will not answer it for you. Your lawyer is not allowed to answer questions for you, but they can help you understand what the question needs, the kind of answer the question needs. And there's another question here. The fact that I am so nervous being in this session is insane. Anyway, thanks for you being resourceful. Yeah, it's normal. It's very normal to be nervous. Any person, by the way, anybody who doesn't get nervous has an issue, especially if you're going for a hearing, right? You see, even going for a simple exam, you get nervous. But it's just a matter of keeping calm and knowing that it's not the end of the world, and knowing that you have put your evidence together, like do your homework, just make sure everything is clean, right? and then God is just gonna do it for you. It's normal to be nervous. It's really, but invest your time in like reading, understanding, and knowing the processes, you know, like know the right things to do other than relying on people so much. Yeah. Okay. I don't know who that is, but please kindly mute your microphone, somebody.
98 to 2004.
Gosh, I don't know who it is.
2004. That's it, 2005 to 2010.
Who is it? You know, we're more than 100 people on this call, so it's even difficult to tell who is speaking. But please, if you can hear me, kindly mute your microphone. Hearing some people, can't tell who they are. Just kindly mute your microphone, please. Then there's also another question here. Very educative, especially to us who are preparing. Can we have your number, please? Okay, I'm going to type my number here, but and I would prefer emails as well. Will we receive the recorded session? Yes, you will receive the recorded session. You don't even need to send me your email. I already have all your emails. Can we get your contact? You are a very resourceful person. Some of us, our hearing dates are very close, and there are many things we have just heard from you. Yes, I'm going to provide my number. Let me actually write it right away. 416-576-9164. So that's my number. Then there is also another question here. I live far from Toronto and I don't have many volunteer activities and events to help me with my evidence. How can I be assisted? Oh my God, it doesn't matter wherever you live. Please, I can 100% find you an organization to volunteer with regardless of where you live. All I need to know is your address and your postcode. I can just go online and find community organizations around where you live. And if you want, we can write them an email. I'll be more than happy to help you write an email, copy you in that email and say, please help her or help them. Right? So Margaret Mwawula, just drop me an email on the email that I provided in the chat. It doesn't matter if you don't live in Toronto. By the way, I even encourage people not to live in Toronto because it's so polluted, so expensive, you know? Yeah. Can we get the contact for the WhatsApp group? So just send me a message on that number and I'll send you the link to join the group. Yes, the interview form has been shared. Yeah, those who are not in Toronto, I need to volunteer. What about them? So again, the volunteering thing, there's so many guys, even when you are like, wherever you live, like you do not necessarily need to be in Toronto. It's not written anywhere that for you to volunteer, you have to be in Toronto. No. What you do, wherever you are, just get on your phone and say community centers near me. Community organizations near me on Google, and then look through what it's providing. Or say women's organizations near me, food banks near me, child-centered organizations near me, shelters near me. Like simple, just you will find something, trust me, and just give them a call. Just compose yourself, just drop them a call, right? And say, my name is so and so, I'm a refugee. By the way, never fear to tell people you're a refugee. Don't. Just feel free. May I tell people whatever? Right now, where I work, I have like a managerial job, and every time I'm introducing myself, I'm like, I'm a refugee from Uganda, right? And like I don't fear to say that because the truth of the matter is that I am, and it doesn't stop me from the many opportunities that I have. Actually, so to say, I get to utilize the vulnerability kind of like advantage, right? I'm Black, I'm a refugee. So hiring me, having me on board would actually work best for you because you have a vulnerable person that is part of your team, right? And if you're a woman or if you're a person if you're LGBT, it even makes you even way stronger, right? You're Black, you're a refugee, you're a woman, or you're an LGBTQ person, right? Like when it comes to issues of diversity and equity, This country is so keen on diversity and equity. Big time. That's one thing you need to know. Use the vulnerability index to get jobs. Because these guys, every time they receive money from the federal government, from the provincial government, from the cities, from different donors, every 6 months, they are asked, right, to report on issues of equity, diversity, right? And they need to mention how many Black people do they have in their team, how many people who identify as disabled, as LGBTQ, as women, as they actually call them BIPOC. BIPOC is Black, where am I forgetting? Black, indigenous, people of color. Do they have on their team? You need to use that vulnerability index. I remember my first job, I used that vulnerability index to get my first job. In my interviews, like, I am Black, I'm a person of color, but I'm a refugee. But either way, I am qualified for the job. So I'm like the perfect fit that you can have on your team. And I got the job, right? So utilize that opportunity. Like, don't undermine yourself. And, that's, like when you think you're there, like, oh my God, who's going to accept me? Who's going to do what? That inferiority kind of like complex. No, do not allow that. Then also I want to join WhatsApp group. Yeah, you can send a message to the number that I just shared. How about your kids or nephews and nieces writing to you and they are minors? What ID can they provide? Okay, that's a good question. If they're minors and they need to write for you, maybe their mother or their father can like because some people are very keen with sharing the identity of their children, right? For example, you can say my partner is not comfortable with sharing the identity of their children, or if they don't have IDs, they can just write their name. You know, that beautiful letter that is written by a minor, a 5-year-old, using, like illustrations. That's amazing and powerful. They don't need to attach any ID because they don't have, right? Besides, you already mentioned them in your story and on your narrative and on your basis of claim that they were born this date. So clearly a member can see that they are minors, right? So if I even gathered the courage to put together that lovely letter of how they miss mommy and daddy and how things have changed ever since you left, and wishing you safety wherever you are, and asking the Canadian government to make sure that mommy is safe so that we can join her, like, that's so powerful, right? Like, if I was a member, I wouldn't even start asking questions about where is their ID. If you ask me where is their ID, if I was the claimant who is beside you, do you know what I would do? I would cry. And if I cry, emotions, right? So, like, you need to be smart, right? Then what happens if a lawyer asks you what happens if a lawyer asks you for money and you have a legal aid? Right? What happens if a lawyer asks you for money and you have legal aid? What is the next step after this? Who should I contact yet the hearing is due? Why would the lawyer ask you for money? That's crazy. The lawyer is not supposed to ask you for money, right? Is it like official? Is it through emails, or they're just telling you verbally? You can ask legal aid. I don't know. Okay, if my lawyer asked me to pay more money, I would ask them clearly, what is the money for, right? Like, is there an extra role that they have done that is beyond the contract that we signed? Remember, you signed all those forms with a lawyer, right? You should be able to go back to those contracts as well, right? But you can also you can call legal aid and ask them for help. I mean, you can like call them or drop them an email. Just go online and search for legal aid. Guys, invest in information. Go online, look for the legal aid number, call and say, my name is so-and-so. I'm a legal aid client. I got a lawyer through legal aid who is helping me with my refugee claim. The UCI number is this. My lawyer is called so and so and so and so. They've been working with them, but looks like they're asking me for extra money. Is it maybe, is this the arrangement? Like, do it politely. Don't do it as if you're reporting the lawyer, but just do it as if you're asking to get more information and more inquiry, you know, like you're inquiring to be able to understand, so that it helps you to make a decision. I hope that's the question. What evidence can someone produce if they cannot get hold of your partner because the partner has gone mute? If your partner has disappeared, then they have disappeared. You don't know where they are. But if at some point you had some pictures, you can maybe share any pictures. And you know, by the way, let me tell you something. There's this misunderstanding that people, and it's a myth actually that people have. People think that for me to present pictures with my partner, I need to present pictures where we are naked or romantic or something. No. Who would want to share their pictures when they are naked? But it could be like a picture when you were like having a drink together, having lunch, or maybe you were with other people in a group. Because what if I was with my partner and we were attending a party and we took a group picture with friends, all bees at a party, and here is me and my partner is on the other side. So here from the left, third person on the left putting on a blue coat is me, and on the right, the third person on the right in a green dress is my partner. So, and I mentioned the name. Just as simple as that. Like, if they've disappeared, then they have disappeared. If you, I don't know, if you have, if you even have a friend who can write, for example, if my partner disappeared, but my friend X knew that my friend Y, if my friend Y knew that me and X were in a relationship, so if Y is writing me a letter, they can say, "Oh, I know Patrick King. We went to the same school. We've been working together here. I for sure know that Patrick is gay. They were actually in a relationship with X." So you see how my friend knows about the relationship, and they are writing a letter and referencing my partner in that letter to prove that indeed I had a partner who was X. Like that alone proves, right? Yeah. Then text message, if any photos. Okay, yeah, somebody was answering. In your story, if you were raped, is it a must to see a mental health doctor? Well, under normal circumstances, rape depresses. It's not a must that you have to see a mental health doctor, because first and foremost, in the different places where we come from in Africa, we don't even have very many psychiatrists, you know, like specialists. And also the few who are there attend to complex psychiatric cases. But you could see a counselor. It doesn't need to be a mental health doctor. Maybe I was raped when I was in Asia, or maybe in Ghana in a certain village, and I there's a at the nearby clinic I found a counselor who counseled me. You know, it could just be a counselor. It could be a community health worker. In Uganda, we call them VHTs, village health team workers. If they could write a letter for me saying, "Oh, I know just okay, somebody is could you please kindly mute your microphones? Because it's two people who are, I don't know who they are. I don't know how to mute everybody, guys. So Lucy Mwathi, could you kindly please mute your mic? So I've even forgotten what I was saying. What was I talking about? Sorry, somebody remind me.
You're talking about the issue of rape.
Oh yeah, rape and counselors and all that. Yeah, for example, you can do you know that if you're raped, you could also confide in a friend, which friend can attest to the fact that you are indeed raped, and the friend offered you counseling and support, and even maybe referred you to go and do maybe to go and buy contraceptive pills, because you remember you're within the 72-hour window. that you don't get pregnant. And for some reason, you tell your friend even discouraged you from going to the police because when you go to the police, they will embarrass you. Like you can make your evidence rich depending on how you write those letters. So it's not a must that you have to say mental health doctor. But what you do when you get here, because you know there's like experiences that can never be brushed off your head or off your brain or in your mind, right? For example, a memory of rape kind of like provokes emotions. So when you get here, you can decide to look for like a psychotherapist. Like me, I remember when I got here through Canadian Center for Victims of Torture, they got me a psychotherapist, and I did all my 8 sessions with my psychotherapist. And I made sure that what I said on day 1 is what I said on the last session. Consistent. One problem with us is that we're not consistent. Today you're saying this, the next day you're saying this, the next day you're saying this. You're inconsistent, right? So you can get good enough. You have a brown paper. With your brown paper, you can get a psychotherapist here and go to them, cry to them, tell them everything that happened, right? And then they will even write you a letter. Hope that answers the question. How about if you mentioned in your story for like classmates from a long time ago, how can I provide the identification when we parted? If you parted, then you don't have to. The only thing, if I mention, for example, classmate XYZ, and I don't know where they are today, all I need to prove is that I was at that school. At least I have my certificate for advanced level or ordinary level. So if I have my school certificate show that I went to that school, that's enough proof to show that, oh, indeed, I went to that school. And if I said I met Jessica in that school, so at least I have something to prove that I was in that school. So I don't necessarily need to have a because I don't know where she is. Is it risky for someone to have like 2 bank accounts and working before they're hearing? No, if you have a work permit, you're allowed to work. So you have as many accounts as you want because it's your money. As long as if it's going through your SIN, you know that you will have to pay for taxes. You can have as many accounts as you want. You can work as long as you're permitted to work, and you're only permitted to work if you have a work permit. There's no way working can affect you. I thought you already went for your hearing and got a PR. Why are you still identifying the refugee? Kind of put me, please. Yes, but I came in this country, so even people who have been here 50 years who came in as a refugee will say they came in as a refugee. So, having my PR does not mean that I've never been a refugee. I was. You mentioned that family members who claimed in the same file being put together. Does that include children listening in to the parents' evidence? How old should the child be? Well, again, like I shared, for children who are below 12 years, they do not necessarily have to meet before the member. If they are above 12 years, the member might request for them to be there. But as parents, you can say we're not comfortable sharing our stories when our kids are listening. Also, you're right? Say, you know what? I cannot start sharing my story when the children are listening because then confidentiality has to be respected. Somebody called Yuna Kimoni. Could you kindly mute your microphone? Then there's another question here. How should the format of a letter be like? Oh gosh, so many questions. We need to stop this. So a format of a letter, like I've been speaking to how letters should look like. So your letter must be addressed to somebody. If you do not know exactly who you're writing to, at least it should be to whoever it should concern. It should have a date. It should have a subject, right? It should introduce you. The person who's writing the letter needs to introduce you. When did you meet? For example, who asked this question? Anna Rosemary. So let me say I'm writing a letter for Anna Rosemary. I would say, for example, maybe I'm writing this letter. Can I request the person someone called Yuna Kimoni? Could you kindly mute your microphone, please? Yuna Kimondo, could you kindly? Okay. What was I talking about? I was talking about
Support letters.
yeah, support letter for Rosemary. So Rosemary, let me write a letter for you right now. Okay, to the Immigration and Refugee Board of Canada. Subject, so I put the date, maybe December 22nd, 2023. Subject, reference or support letter for Rosemary Anna. I'm writing to introduce and I'm writing to introduce and support Miss Rosemary in her refugee claim. I've known Miss Rosemary since this year. We met in Nairobi during blah, 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 or we were together at school in this year. I've known them for this number of years. We've been friends, or I've worked with her here and there, or they're my partner, you know. I understand that since this year, they have been having challenges as a result of their political activities or because of their membership to this party, or maybe they were having issues with their husband, which culminated into ABC and D, gender-based violence. Actually, at some point, they were battered. Or maybe I know Rosemary is actually gay, just like me. We both are interested in we're like same-sex relationship people. This, for some reason, has not only brought her into danger, risked her life, but many of us, but specifically for her, A, B, C, and D happened. For example, on this date, I remember this and this and this happened. And she was arrested, though we figured out a way to bribe the police and get her out. And ever since then, her life has increasingly been in danger, and we cannot guarantee her safety. And just recently, I got to learn that she moved to Canada, or she told me that she was moving to Canada. And I mean, I'm happy for them that finally they are safe, because, like, in Uganda, because of a recent law that was passed, or in Kenya, because of nature of our social cultural norms, and like, in Nigeria, religious groups have recently been actively campaigning and like against LGBTQ people. For example, this month, maybe I can say, for example, in this month, there is this particular newspaper or media agency that featured a story about ABC and D, which was, just something simple. And then because of that and that and that, it's clear that it is not safe for neither Rosemary and people like myself and many others who are in that category. So therefore, I request, my humble appeal is that please, the Canadian government can grant her safety by accepting her asylum. Thank you. I sign. I say, if you want to contact me for more information, please do not hesitate. You can contact me on my email, put my email or my phone number. I sign the letter, I attach my ID, I sign on my ID, and I put the date, something like that. But remember, everything that I'm writing is in line with my story. It has to be in line with the story. So right now I was making up things, but me, if I'm writing for you, Rosemary, I'll ask you to, like, I will need to know your story. You don't need to show me your story, but I'll need to know your story. So that what I'm writing is in line. I'll tell you, write the letter and give it to me, and I sign it, something like that. I hope, Rosemary, that answers your question. Can I get a support letter from you even when they haven't scheduled my hearing date? Yes, you can get a support letter from us.
Yeah.
Secondly, does court
Yako iko. Kama yako si yani, mtu anasoma story yako anakwambia wewe tafuta hii.
Kevin Olaro.
Kama mimi unajua bibi yangu anajua hii story, ilibidi atoe statement. My last partner
Kevin Olaro.
Yes. marafiki huku pia nitafute mmoja wawili utoe statement.
Whoever knows Kevin.
Sasa ni as in evidence yako na yangu haiwezi kuonekana kulingana na story. Wewe ni mgay ama bisexual?
Kevin, could you kindly mute your microphone, please?
Mimi ni gay.
Kevin Mularo.
Kwa hivyo bibi yako anajua ama hajui? Anajua? Okay, sasa I think
Does
hiyo
court
lazima andike.
notify you on the evidence that they need, or you just prepare everything as per your narrative? The lawyer will tell you the kind of evidence that you need. So it's not the court. The court just asks you for evidence, but the lawyer has to tell you the kind of evidence that you need. But even you, through your story, you should be knowing what to provide. Okay. Hello. Thanks for the session. I have this scenario. I am my partner, both here. It's really hard to speak when Kevin is.
Hiyo kabla narudi job lini?
Second. Oh, second.
Oh.
Hard to compete Kevin Mularo.
Huyu jamaa nitaongea naye by Wednesday.
Whoever knows them, tell them to meet him.
Then I'll get back to you by
Okay. So this last question is hi, thanks for the session. I have this scenario where I and my partner are both here, but in a different case. I'm on political. I think they're trying to say I think their claim is like it's a political claim, and she's on by okay. So your claim is politics, your partner's claim is bisexual. Is there a possibility that both of us are likely to appear on the same day for court? She came before me, and just because she never knew about anything in politics, she decided to head to the LGBT side. She knows best. So first and foremost, are you legally together? Did you mention them in your, did your partner or yourself mention in your narratives that you are a couple? And also, are you like legally together, either under common law, or do you have like a marriage certificate to prove that you're partners? If that's the case, yeah, but your partner can be bisexual. You can be married to somebody when they're bisexual. Yeah, and for you might have no problem with it, but their family and Uganda or Kenya or Nigeria or Ghana or Zimbabwe, Tanzania will have an issue with it, right? And there's evidence to the fact that since they are bisexual and they are your wife, the moment even your family gets to know, it is going to be a different story. So for you, you might be active in your politics. For her, she's playing her motherly and wife roles, but when she's bisexual and she doesn't feel safe, right? So it is not written anywhere that when you're married to somebody, you have to be heterosexual. You can be married to somebody and they're bisexual. So they have all the reasons to request for asylum on whatever grounds that they feel are not safe, that they might not return to their home. So if you're called on the same day, for me, I think it doesn't matter. But I doubt if you can be called on the same day, especially if your claims are not under the same file. If she submitted a claim on her own, then she will have her own hearing date. If you submitted a claim on your own, you will have your own hearing date. You will only have the same date if your claims are under the same file number. I hope that answers your question. Please forward the intake form. I already forwarded. Kindly scroll up. When filing the client intake form, what is the claimant ID? That is an ID that is on your, I think on the, after you've...
the UCI number.
Are you asking about the UCI number? I think everybody has
meaning the claimant ID, isn't it like the UCI number?
Yeah, even on when you submit, after you've submitted your claim, you get a claimant number, but also you can use your UCI number. It shouldn't be a problem.
All right.
So great. So I think we have answered all questions, and I don't want to keep people here for long. I'm also tired. I have to go and start enjoying my Christmas Eve and my Christmas, I get into the Christmas mood. So thank you very much. I don't know if Papa is here. Papa, are you there? Do you want to say something before we close? Oh, Lillian, these are members from Hope for Refugee. Lillian, are you there? Do you want to say something? Oh, Papa? Okay, if they're not.
Yeah,
Yeah, Lillian, you're there?
my question was when I'm requesting my, okay, I didn't carry my original certificate and other documents when I was coming. So if I need them for my hearing and they are sent by DHL, I hear they usually held at customs.
That's not true. What comes through DHL, as long as there is no illegal items in that parcel, because either way, whatever comes through DHL is scanned using the customs scanners. They have sophisticated technology to tell if there is anything illegal. If there's nothing illegal, they will not hold anything. If they have sent it to the right address, trust me, it's going to arrive to your address.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, guys. Thank you a lot. Thanks for being patient. And we're going to continue having similar sessions on different topics. And we will for sure communicate. And again, like I said, Hope for Refugees is still a very new organization. So please support our work. When we call on you, come and be part. And we'll very soon send out a volunteer application form. Please volunteer. I know some of you are experienced in different things. You have a lot of technical skills. I mean, like you can bring some value to the organization as and I mean that would be amazing, you know, because we want to work and support our communities beyond just also immigration stuff along, but also employment, housing, and several other things. The next session, actually, I really I feel like I should do a session on how to find housing, because I have a lot of knowledge on how to look for a house. And I can give you like really, really amazing tips on how to find housing. So maybe I'll first talk to my team members to see if that's a topic we can take on next time. But thank you very much. Happy holidays, everybody. Those who celebrate Christmas, Merry Christmas. And yeah, thank you and bye. Take care.
Thank you. Grateful. God bless you.
Bye. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
We are happy as a group here. Me and Kamal, we are grateful for the information. Thank you so much. Happy holidays.